Hello everyone, welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. I really hope you've had or are having a great weekend here in Brisbane, Australia. It is currently 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, so we're well into our Monday. But of course, so many of you, and in fact I've just seen that Mackenzie Kate from Arizona says it's 35 degrees Celsius. Thank you for providing Celsius, Mackenzie Kate, because I don't translate Fahrenheit very well. So it's good to know what it is in Celsius, and 8 p.m. where you are. So good to be joining you all from all over the world. But of course, so many of you watch this show as a replay, and I love it that you do. And so if you are watching this as a replay, you too are welcome, and so good to be hanging out with you for what will be the next 50 minutes. Today we're doing a Q&A, a question and answer about your questions about singing and my answers to your said questions, and I'm looking forward to doing that. Of course, we do a lot of Q&A here at the show, but if we also have special guests on, and every now and then we target certain subjects. Next week, we are having Dr. Marcy Daniels-Rosenberg is joining us. Now, Dr. Marcy is the co-author of this book. Now, this is the second edition, and I've read the first edition cover to cover. I'm currently in the process of reading, you can see where I'm up to with my bookmark there. I'm currently in the process of reading the second edition, which is a great update. And anyway, we're having Dr. Marcy come on the show next week. And so don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the white bell icon, because when you do that, YouTube, when I go live for these live hangouts, YouTube will shoot you an email to remind you that we're going live, and that way you don't miss the live show, or equally it just reminds you that, hey, a little bit later on I want to watch the replay. And next week's show will be a do not miss, as will be our two other guests that we've got before the end of the year. We've got Dr. Joan Melton from New York, and Professor Brian Gill, both outstanding vocal researchers, vocal pedagogues, singing teachers extraordinaire, coming onto the show. And haven't we been just so fortunate over the last period of time this year? We've had some of the most outstanding people come onto the show, and you know what? Each one of them does it at no charge to myself or to you. And that's the beauty of this live show that we do with each other every Monday, is that this is the highest quality instruction that you can get in the world, and it's all being offered to you for free. All you need to do is show up and engage in the learning, and your voice, your singing will benefit. Do you know what will also benefit your singing? And guess what? So as you know, last week we didn't have a show because I was on my mid-term break. And I'm actually pleased to say I did get a couple of days holiday, which was really needed. I was exhausted by the time I'd finished on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday last week. I recorded all of the videos in preparation for Voice Essentials 3. It was a massive task, but I got it done. And believe it or not, I lock myself into this studio and I just go for it. And I got all of it done. That means that we are on track to release Voice Essentials 3 December 1st. So I've kind of been hinting at the fact that I'm going to be doing that, but I can with great certainty and confidence tell you that we are launching Voice Essentials 3 December 1st this year, 2020. Very exciting. Very exciting. Now, the advanced course, and it is an advanced course. So if you think of Voice Essentials 1 as for beginners, that then prepares you to do the intermediate level course, Voice Essentials 2, which then prepares you to do Voice Essentials 3, which is an advanced course. I even had to go I sent off a number of my scripts to a good friend of mine who is a music theory specialist, because we really get into some of the nitty gritty about equal temperament tunings, and this is all based around you developing your pitch accuracy, and I just wanted to make sure that what I'd written, because I script all of my videos, every video you ever see besides these these live shows, every video I do is scripted. And so I wanted to and the reason I do that is I want to make sure that the information I'm giving you is correct. I'm not just, tooting my own horn and, telling you whatever comes to mind. No, I've got a massive library of texts and journal articles and whatever, and that's what I draw upon to give you the information that I provide. And the Voice Essentials online courses are no different. So, that all being said, for the next 2 weeks, here's the important bit, because I know so many of you that are even in the live chat right now, so many of you have already got Voice Essentials 1 and you've completed that. So many of you have already got Voice Essentials 2 and you've completed that. For the next 2 weeks, only 2 weeks, until the 14th of October, you will be able to get the Voice Essentials 3 online course as a pre-order. And we've done this before. If you've been with me for any number of time, you will know that we do this each time. For 2 weeks only, you can pre-order the course for 97 Australian dollars. Now, that is super important this time, because the advanced course is so dense and there's so much information, really high-end information in it, that it is going to be retailing at $247. So for the next 2 weeks, you can get it for more than 50% off. You can get it for $150 off what it is going to retail for from the 1st of December. So I want you to be, if you are thinking you're going to get it, then can I really encourage, you've got to get it in the next 2 weeks to get that big saving. Now, from the 15th of October through to the 30th of November, it will then be on sale for $147 Australian. So then you're only saving $100. That's still a pretty good saving, isn't it? And what I also want you to know is from here until we release on the 1st of December, if you haven't purchased any of the programs, you haven't got Voice Essentials 1, 2, or 3, and you've been wondering whether you should or not, until the end of November, you can get the Voice Essentials Pro Bundle, which includes everything, 1, 2, 3, all of the exercises, all of the e-manuals. You can get all of that for only $297. Now that is a saving, from memory, of 294 Australian dollars. You're getting it for half price. Now, after the 1st of December, the Pro Bundle will be $397. So there is massive savings across the board. I've put a link in the description of this video that you can find, that will send you to the Voice Essentials 3 online course page, and you can go and check that out after the show. I'll remind you again next week, just so you don't miss, and I'll send out some emails, but I wanted you to know, because I don't want you to miss out on what are massive savings. Why am I giving you such massive savings? Do you know what? Actually, it's because I want you because you guys support the show. Everyone here that watches the live show, you guys are Voice Essentials. We are a community of singers, and so I want you to get a lot of the benefit from what we do, and then later on people will pay full price. But between now and the next 2 weeks, you can save big. Okay, enough of that. I want to get into the show. We're going to do a Q&A today, and as I say all the time, please remember, when I do my Q&A, I do not propose to be, any guru when it comes to voice. I've been teaching for 25 plus years, 25 years this year. What a year to celebrate 25 years of teaching, hey? I celebrated it by teaching everyone online. But it's been, over that period of time, I've developed a bank of knowledge, and it's on that bank of knowledge that we're going to draw upon to answer your questions to the best of my ability. And as you know, for those of you who have been watching this show for any length of time, if I don't know the answer, I will say so. And then more often than not, before we come back to our next Q&A, I'll go away, have a bit of a search, find out if I can find the answer, and then come back and I provide updates as we go along. But enough of all that. Let's get into it. Okay. I'm just checking that we don't have any music underneath, and I don't think we do. That's good. Also, to just remind you that I do prioritize super chats. So if you absolutely must have your question answered, then throw in a super chat, and any money that we gain from the super chat, I feed right back into the channel. These YouTube channels, they're an expensive thing to run. Let's just put it that way. I do it because I'm passionate about voice. I'm passionate about you learning and learning well. But anyway, if you want to do a super chat, know that all of that money gets fed back into the channel. 100%. 100% it does. Okay, let's get into some questions. Now, Mackenzie Kate, who has become a regular here recently, haven't you, Mackenzie? It's always good to have regulars, and I can see Matt in the chat as well, and Scuba Chick, Scuba Terry, I can't remember your full, I know you personally, well, Scuba Girl, TL, Scuba Girl and I had a private lesson this morning, so I always forget your actual handle there, Scuba. Okay, Mackenzie Kate says, "Hi, Dr. Dan. There's a new reality show we have in the US called I Can See Your Voice." Yeah, I've not heard of this one before. We haven't had that one make its way to our shores yet. Maybe that's a good thing. Where celebrity judges guess whether someone is a good or bad singer based on their looks. What's your opinion? Oh, dearie me. I have not seen the show, and that has to be said straight up. I haven't even seen anything of it online. If I'm just going to respond to the notion of what you've written there, Mackenzie, that sounds terrible. It's one of the reasons why I so strongly react to TV talent shows, is because it creates products out of human beings, and I've got a whole video on this, Mackenzie Kate, and you can go and check that out about TV talent shows. Just search that on the channel. But look, there's a reason why they've gone this way, I would think, is because when we consider ones like Paul Potts, I think that was his name. Paul had dental issues and buck teeth, but a really lovely baritone voice. If I'm remembering correctly, he was on a UK-based show. I can't remember whether it was Idol or you know, Britain's Got Talent, I can't remember. When we think of ones like, who's the woman, the older lady? She was an opera singer. Oh, I just saw a super chat from Short Gad. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's really so helpful to receive that. Anyway, one of the reasons we respond to singers like Paul in the way that we respond to them is because we're visual creatures. We respond to our environment visually. And when there's a juxtaposition, what we expect to hear in relationship to what we see, and so when you hear a Beyonce, or when you hear you know, some of these beautiful people, you kind of almost expect the voice to be as amazing as it is. But then when we hear people that are not what we would, you know, socially refer to as beautiful people, and isn't that a terrible way to say it, then we're shocked. And we see this if we ever see a person with a disability step onto stage, and we're shocked that a person with a disability could have a beautiful voice. And so what this show, it sounds, again, I haven't seen the show, but what this show seems to be taking advantage of is that dissonance between what we see and what we then hear. That's bad. That is, I personally think that is immoral, and I'll just come out and say it. I'm responding in the moment, and I haven't seen the show, but the notion of what's being written by Mackenzie Kate, I respond to that and I go, that doesn't sound right to me. It does not sound right to do that to human beings, because it's all well and good for the person who we hear, you know, who is not a beautiful person, but then gets celebrated for their voice. But what about even the beautiful person who then presents their voice and it apparently doesn't live up to whatever expectations or predefined, you know, values that have been stated by the judges and the audience? So it's just wrong. Like every which way you look at this, it's wrong to do that. And so that's my opinion. Again, I do want to really stress, I haven't seen the show. I'm responding to the notion of what that might be. And that really just continues on with what has been a long-standing concern and issue that I take with TV talent shows. But, you know, these things become more debased as they need to find new and, you know, more interesting ways to hold an audience's attention. And I think we do need to question ourselves as a society when, you know, these programs come about, because it's, in one sense, it's kind of the chicken and the egg. Is it the TV production company's fault for creating the program, or is it society's fault that we have got to a point where a program like that would engender interest? And so I think there's an opportunity for all and sundry to reflect actively on their own self and decide, you know. And do you know what we get to do? We get to vote probably with our clickers on our remotes. We get to vote with our remote. Yeah, that's good. What did you think of that? We get to vote with our remote. And in our family, we do vote with our remote. We do not watch these sorts of shows. Question 2, Stranger Than Fiction. Oh, good to see you, Stranger Than Fiction. You've been here before, which is great. I have a question. What singers does Dr. Dan think are the best technicians vocally? We've got a. Do you know what? We've got a singer here in Australia who I've always just admired. Her name is Tina Arena. I think she's a bit older than me, and she was very big here in Australia in the 90s. Subsequently moved to France and became really big in France. But she's just, as a pop vocal, Tina Arena is just, I just loved her. Love her. I just think she's amazing. I'm thinking of, there's another great male vocal. These are older singers, and I'm showing my age here. A guy by the name of Daryl Braithwaite, amazing technical singer here in Australia. You wouldn't refer to these people as technical singers, their technique is really outstanding. These are singers that maybe in your country you've not heard of, but in my neck of the woods, these have been big names. But look, at the end of the day, technique should be heard but never seen. So, and what I mean by that is, you should never, the aim in developing our technique, what Voice Essentials 1, 2 and 3 online courses are all about, is developing your technique. But that's not so that people celebrate you as a technician. What that is designed to do is to empower your ability to effectively communicate in your performance. You don't want people walking away from your performance going, what an amazing technician. You want people walking away from your performance going, oh, that's really got me. I'm going to be thinking about that for the next, umpteen days. And that's, my son turned on YouTube on the TV the other day on the weekend, and he was playing a whole range of Voctave. I love Voctave. And I love Voctave to the point where I often do get a bit teary. It moves me. And now that's not to say that Voctave would move you. We're all moved differently by different things. But, when I hear some of the Voctave arrangements, I think the key arranger for Voctave is a guy by the name of Jamie Ray. Anywho, amazing. And it gets me. Now, are each of those singers in Voctave? Voctave is a vocal ensemble. Are each of those singers technically good? The coloratura soprano, the lady that sings G sharp 6s and 7s and all this, amazing. Like, technically, what? She is wow. But that's not what I'm, at the end of the day, even as a vocal pedagogue, that I'm in search for. I'm in search for that emotive connection. So there you go. TG Laz 1Q. I don't think I could even create that into a word if I tried. I love to sing, but I rarely get the chance to. I work full time, live with others, and I only want to sing if nobody can hear me. Any advice? I've started lessons, which is great, but still limiting. Well, firstly, it's great to hear that you started lessons. That's a great step. And I encourage you to, to really see that through. One of the things with singing lessons is, and I see this, I see my fair share of this, as you would expect as a singing teacher who's been doing this for 25 years. Everyone starts off with an incredible amount of enthusiasm, but not everyone will stay the course. I think some people start to engage with the process of learning to sing and suddenly go, oh, wow, there's this is going to take a little bit longer than I thought. Dr. Dan does not have a magic wand that he's going to wave, and in 3 easy lessons I'm going to be, you know, Ed Sheeran. I encourage you to stay the course. Go the long distance with it. That's where the results are. As far as where to sing, I do have a video on that very subject. And so I want to encourage you to go and search for that, you know, where to practice your singing, I think, or something like that it's called. So go and check that out if you can. And, you know, and the working full-time, it's a challenge for most singers, it would have to be said, vocational and avocational singers, because finding that time to practice can be a difficult one. You can seek out rehearsal spaces, whether it be at theatre venues or recording venues. They'll have actually rehearsal rooms. It sometimes, occasionally you can find them that they're free. Occasionally you have to pay a few dollars and you book it. And that can also hold you accountable to your practice because you've booked that time, you've paid for that time, and so just like having a gym membership. I must admit I haven't been to the gym for the last couple of weeks, despite the fact that I own a gym membership. I will go back. My children are on holidays and I will go back to gym. But you get my point, right? So, yeah, so booking a rehearsal space can be a way to go about it. But go and check that video out on the channel, and that'll be hopefully give you some information, some helpful tips there. Know You. That's the name of the person that's asked this question. Know You. Dr. Dan, I am working on my flageolet, so how do I find that thin position where I can find my flageolet and later my whistle register? So is there any exercise for that? By flageolet, I guess you are referring to flute or falsetto register, by the way you've structured your thing. We've talked a lot about voice registration. I will let you know that I have in Voice Essentials 3 there is a exercise dedicated to strengthening your falsetto register, and I have a whole video on that very subject. I know I direct a lot of you in answering your questions across to videos on the channel about these different subjects, and that's because in those videos I really break it down, and you'll get the really in-depth information that you're searching for, and it saves us time. It means I get to more questions. So there is an exercise for that, Know You. So just make sure you go looking for that. Team Short Gad, the Super King, and Team Short Gad that's another bit of dollar. Thank you very much. I'm really appreciating the super chats today. Really helpful. I've seen the Super King's super chat there. Who is your favorite singer of Gethsemane? Actually, it would be John Farnham, and when I've sung Gethsemane, that's who I have modeled my vocal presentation off, his version. I love the angst and dare I say the level of righteous anger that Farnham puts into his version of Gethsemane. For those of you who don't know, Gethsemane is from the musical theatre JC Superstar, and there's been a whole range of very famous singers over the years do presentations of that piece, but to be honest with you, Farnham is hands down my favourite. But admittedly, I've been a lifelong fan of John Farnham, so there you go. Dapper Di, what's the best way to treat a husky voice? More specifically, a voice with chronic hoarseness at the earliest. Thanks. Dapper Di, I would probably need to ask further questions. So let me talk you through. I'm not going to be able to answer you specifically. When a voice steps into my studio and I have not known that voice before, or the person that carries that voice, I observe over 2 or 3 lessons, and so that's going to be anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. I want to observe what is that huskiness a chronic issue, a long-term issue, or is it a short-term issue? If I observe that it's a long-term issue, and I also observe that none of what I'm doing with that voice is bringing about any change and helping it towards a more habitually clean sound, then what I do is I would generally direct that singer to an ear, nose and throat doctor, a laryngologist specifically, because I want to have that voice looked at to determine what is the cause of that huskiness. What I'm wanting to do is rule out any organic issues, any pathologies that might be disrupting the mucosal wave or the adduction, the oscillation of the vocal folds, and so we want to make sure there's nothing nasty going on. When we rule that out, and if we do find a pathology, then that is for the laryngologist to respond to and deal with, and that singer is then in the care of that laryngologist. If the laryngologist then determines that it's actually a functional issue, a non-organic issue, then more often than not, that singer is then going to be placed with a speech pathologist to address the function, to ensure that their spoken values are working far more efficiently, and we look to clean up that huskiness. Of course, sometimes it can be a combination of both. We can find that there's a pathology, an organic pathology that has caused a functional issue, or we can find that there's a functional issue that has caused a pathology to develop. And so, it can be a complex little thing going on, and so that's why we do pay laryngologists good dollar to care for our voices, and they're able to direct the traffic as to how we go. And then my role as a singing voice specialist is to then join with the speech pathologist. Generally, after a number of the sessions that the singer has done with the speechy, I then come in and I take that voice that is being taught to walk well, I teach it then to run well. And so that's kind of a good way to think of it. So I would be recommending that if you have this husky voice that you've had for a little while, I would be recommending that you see a laryngologist and have your voice fully assessed so that a really accurate diagnosis can be brought about. AEFLUV, AEFLUV. Hey, how should I regain my voice strength after getting diagnosed with tonsillitis? I don't know if I caused vocal damage after singing while sick before. Well, firstly, hands up if you don't have tonsils. I don't have tonsils. My tonsils were removed when I was, I think, 3, because I had overly large tonsils, which apparently were pressing in on my eustachian tube or covering it, which was then causing partial deafness for me, which, given what I've gone on to do, was a pretty good thing to be able to do, right? Anywho, what was I going to say? Yeah, so tonsillitis tonsils obviously sit up and in the pharynx area. What we'd want to determine is whether your tonsils have then been secreting any gunk that you've then found yourself having to constantly clear away, and that constant clearing can then lead to issues. But once again, this is an area for the ear, nose and throat doctor to address, the laryngologist, because we want to make sure that that tonsillitis is just a one-off thing, firstly. We want to always, remember, it's always better to address the cause, the root issue, and so we'd want to do that. It would be unlikely, I'm not saying that this can't happen, but it would be unlikely that tonsillitis would cause actual vocal, like be the direct cause. It could be a secondary cause of, vocal wear and tear, but it would be we would class that as a organic issue, like we were just saying before, that has then caused the voice to functionally behave in a less than efficient way that could be leading you to have some issues. So again, my encouragement would be for you to have that addressed by a laryngologist. Asina, hi there, just got here. Oh, welcome. It's good to have you with us. Just got here. I want to start singing, but I do not know how to practice. What should I do, or how should I do it? Asina, because you're new here, you may not know about, and this is the course that's going along the bottom down here, voiceessentials.com.au is where all of my learning materials, all of my singing courses, that's where they all sit. And I would encourage you to go and check that out. And that will step you through once Voice Essentials 3 goes live in December, there are 34 modules of learning. Like, that'll take you a long time. Even if you do it, it'll take you nearly a year, even if you do it one module every week. But just to let you know, that's gonna take some time. So there is a lot of learning there to do, and I'd encourage you to do that. If you're wanting to get private singing lessons, we can do that as well. All of the links and everything about everything is in the description of this video, so go and check that out. And that'll teach you, and all of those things can teach you how to practice. And I've got plenty of videos on that on the channel as well. Mike Young, good to see you, Mike. How far should someone stretch their voice outside of its natural tone if it doesn't fit the style of music they like to sing? My voice doesn't seem to quite fit with the songs I like to sing. There's a couple of things going on there, Mike. Firstly, when practicing, always practice to where the voice to +1 or 2. So always practice to the top of your range, but always and never be silly. Don't try to sing crazy outside of your range. Always take the activity +1 or 2 steps, semitones. And that way you're encouraging growth, you're encouraging stretch, but you're not being, silly about that. I just want to acknowledge Short Gad's super chat. Thank you, Short Gad. Appreciate your thank you. Thank you for the super chat. So yeah, don't go too crazy when stretching either end of your range. But when it comes to your voice sitting within the correct, for example, if you're going to sing pop, then for guys, a lot of it's going to be really high. Even pop rock, right? If you go back to 70s glam rock, it'll be really high. So I transpose. If something's generally if you take something down 3 steps, 4 steps, so a tone and a half or 2 tones. I don't like to take things down much further than that. It's just with backing tracks I'm referring to. Look, if you've got a guitar or a piano and you know how to transpose, you transpose the life out of it. Go for it. There are no rules, right? And even if you do, transpose at a fifth, the reality is that the vast majority of your audience aren't going to be able to tell that you've done that. So I always say, when it comes to transposition, just go for it, okay? And that's what I would do, because at the end of the day, because you've said here, right, Mike, that my voice doesn't seem to quite fit with the songs I like to sing. Do you know what the most important bit of that sentence is? The songs I like to sing. It's that you've got to get to your audience, not the key. It doesn't matter what key the song is in when you do that. What matters is the fact that you are, communicating. That's the bit. And your audience wants you to be loving what you're communicating. And it won't matter if, you're doing it in, I don't know, F major as opposed to A major. Now, yeah, there are nuances to that, and if we want to be purist about it, there'll be a color difference to the tone and the resonance. But for the most part, I think you'll find that there's far more joy in choosing to transpose a piece and hitting all the notes than not transposing the piece, singing it all in the original written key, but missing the notes. Yeah. Do you know what? We are only going to have time for 2 or 3 more questions. So if you absolutely need your question answered, now is the time to throw in a super chat, because otherwise we're not going to get to it. I'm pleased you enjoyed the response, Mike. Thank you. Capitaine Lebatard. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. Hello, Dan. I want to sing with distortion and still don't understand how you do that. I'm a baritone, but I feel like my voice tone doesn't fit the punk style of music like that I do. You know what? I always send people off to Melissa Cross. We've had Melissa on the show before. Go and check out. She was one of our guests. It's actually the most popular live show we've ever done with Melissa Cross, who her program called Zen of Scream. Go and check that out. That's where I send everyone when it comes to distortion. I do work with metal singers, singers who are doing vocal distortion, but I'm generally helping them to workshop how they're doing things. And so anyway, my best advice in the show today is to send you off to Melissa. Go and do that. Harry S. says, how do sub harmonics work? We don't have time. Harry, we don't have time to answer that question in the last 5 minutes, I'm afraid. Subharmonics, there's a whole, you've kind of got to get into overtones and how that then refracts, and I can't answer that question in a brief moment. I'm sure a Google search will help you there, Harry, but and we'd probably need what we'd also, do you know what? We've got Professor Brian Gill coming onto the show. As I said at the beginning of the show, Professor Brian Gill, he would be able to give us a succinct, a really concise answer to that question. Come back when Brian's on. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the white bell icon so you get notifications of the live show. And Harry, come back on. And what we might do, Linda, the wonderful Linda, let's try to make a note, Linda, and we'll try to fit in that question for Professor Gill when he comes onto the show in November. Harry, I will do my best to remember to do that. And Mike's throwing in a super chat, so I'm going to give him the last question of the day. How important is proper speaking technique? So important. Mike, this is a great question for us to finish on today. You will, no matter how much singing you professionally do, you will sing you will speak, use your voice for speech anywhere upwards of 95, 96% of the time. We only use our voice to sing for a very short amount of time on a percentage basis. And so the thing to remember about that is you want to make sure that your spoken values are efficient and are not requiring of your voice too much, because if you're requiring too much of your voice while you're just doing your walking, your speaking, then when you then come to do your running, that is your singing, then the voice can be just already spent. So it is so important that you really develop great speaking technique. And there have been times when I have sent a new student, even an established student, where we go, do you know what? And they're giving me some reports about their spoken values and the fact that they might speak a lot for their jobs or what have you. And I will often send them off to a speech pathologist to simply work on their spoken values. And it is important that, you know, as a singing teacher, that I always stay within my lane. I don't try to, you know, step outside of my scope of practice. I do the singing, and a speechy does the speaking, and so that's really important. Mind you, next week, Dr. Rosenberg is going to be on the show. She's a speechy. So she's going to be talking. Now, next week's show, we're going to be talking about semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, SOVTs. So straw phonation, lip bubbles, hums, NGs. We are going to learn all about that next week. She said, when I invited her onto the show, she said, I really want to come on and talk SOVTs. And I went, lock it in, Eddie, or in this case, Marcy. We are going to do an SOVT dedicated show. We love SOVTs here, and so we're going to get into that. Mike, I hope that answers your question. I appreciate the super chat. And Short Gad, you've given over and above. Thank you again for your super chat. I hope you've enjoyed the show, everyone. Can I remind you, for 2 weeks only, you're going to be able to get Voice Essentials 3 for $150 off. You're only going to pay 97 Australian dollars until October 14. So if you want to grab, you know, it's pre-order. It'll go live on December 1st. If you want to get a massive saving, then make sure you check out the link below and jump across and grab your copy, or grab your. I guess you don't grab a copy, do you? You're purchasing, pre-ordering, and then it'll go live and you'll have access and yada yada. Wowzers! What a show! That was fun. I hope you enjoy these shows as much as I do. Is it wrong that I enjoy these shows? I do. I love them. We are going to come back next week, same time, Australian Eastern Standard, 1 p.m, Mondays. We've got the special guest, Dr. Marcy. It's going to be awesome. And let me jump back over here. Can I come back? Oh, hey, there we go. We're going to have a great show when we do. Until then, please be safe. Please be kind to one another, and you know, actually be kind to one another. And always you'll hear me end every show by saying, I'm Dr. Dan, sing well.